Welcome back, guys. Happy New Year. Okay, we are going to be looking at your 2021 report via your zodiac sign to see what can be coming up, warning dates, transformations, the unexpected, and the beautiful growth within the domain of both Saturn and Jupiter with that conjunction that just did transpire on the 21st of December 2020. Now, Saturn transited into Aquarius on the 17th of January, and the conjunction point, as I mentioned, occurred on the 21st of December at 0 degrees Aquarius. Now, Saturn spent approximately 2.5 years in Capricorn, and we did previously have the nodes in both Cancer and Capricorn. And I am seeing towards the end of 2020, with the full moon in Cancer and the heavy Capricorn placements in January, these themes are bouncing off in a karmic test to get that foundation right, to really get that accountability there so that all that we've learned we can apply it in this given situation within the age of Aquarius to get the best out of that astrology. Saturn connects to rules, discipline, responsibility, maturity, structure, challenges, restriction, enduring, death, the unknown, and endings. But it's really like a quality system to make sure that we're ticking all those boxes, learning those lessons, taking that direct accountability. And it's almost like the harsh karmic energy, but there's benefits in that. It's the lessons like a teach they teach us to really put that best foot forward, that if we do such with Jupiter, we can get the very best out of those placements. They can link to rights and responsibilities, obligations, false sense of freedom, and self-management. But it's really that self-mastery that it's going to teach us. And especially when it does go retrograde this year, it's a time to reflect upon what we've learned, what we've implemented, and as it goes direct to then make those changes. Theoretically, Saturn is at home in Aquarius. It's its natal ruler. Now, as I mentioned, Aquarius feels quite at home with Saturn. We also have the subcategory of Uranus being linked to it. That connects to the 12th house. So we have both the axis of the 11th and the 12th house themes coming through. Subject matters linking to Uranus and Taurus this year will be coming up because we have 3 squaring aspects. We also have at the beginning of January, Uranus and Taurus going stationary direct on the 1st and direct by the 14th. So sudden changes in those areas can be coming up in a very unexpected way. Aquarius really is the humanitarian of the zodiac sign, wanting to make the world better, looking at those social institutions that aren't working, transforming them, changing them up. The mantra is I know, and the tarot card is really linked to, with Aquarius, the star card in the tarot. The great connection of time. Saturn requires us to utilize that energy effectively, merge with that 11th house placement with where it's falling in your birth chart, which I will discuss in this video, to get the best out of the situation. And the yin yang, the push-pull energy that will be coming up is Uranus and Taurus making squaring aspects to Saturn in Aquarius. So what themes can we have coming up with Saturn in Aquarius? Definitely the energy of responsibility and accountability, and it can be very karmic if we do not follow suit with it. Now, with Uranus and Taurus, it can cause nervous energy, especially when it relates to anything of the tactile, financial related dynamics. And again, it will very much depend upon where it's situated in your chart, which I will mention. So with that, both with the 11th and the 12th house, this push-pull psychology surrounding the situations you're doing, it can be quite a burden. So having to really self-master, having to be extremely organised, and it's almost like, okay, we can see the blessings with Jupiter and Saturn being directly linked together, but what we're going to do to make those things happen, but not biting off more than we can chew, burning that midnight hour, so to speak, waking up at the crack of dawn to make that hope and dream come true. Really taking the direct steps of accountability with Saturn. And yes, with the sudden changes, it's almost the intuitive side. The house of our hidden enemies is going to be our psychology, really. What potentially could we expect? We could expect very much philosophies to come up. Humanitarianism, scientific revolution, music, dance, arts, group activities, more conducive relationships. There can be this notion coming up in 2021 and beyond where we have tribe and pack mentality. So initially we will need to adjust to the energy of Aquarius. If you do study zodiac signs, Aquarius, when they're born and they're growing into that energy, initially do feel like the black sheep of the family. They have very, very firm ideals. They really do fight for the underdog. So, initially it can feel like they're on the outside with those burdens and responsibilities. As we move into this, a lot of us can embody some of that frequency, and it can feel very foreign and alienating initially. But again, with the psychology of the 12th house, we do need to really have a goal in mind. That can be for the bigger picture, where we are learning to have alliances, learning to work together. And it can be due to circumstances that do happen in our own lives personally, or on a wider scale, a global situation that is pulling us together to make us directly work with each other. The old theme of there's no I in team. So, yes, initially pack mentality can come through, but then understanding that for survival will be there's a no I in team, and really being open to that transformation. So I do see a lot of alliances. I do see a lot of people bridging gaps, finding unique ways to work with each other. This can be in collaborations. It can be to do with wider group situations. However it's going to play out, it's almost like we're in the Middle Ages moving to the modern ages. So we're the paved way in this point in time where, yes, in astrology, some do deem this as the recession, but there's the separate energy of the steps that we're taking to move out of this. There can be beautiful aspects. With Jupiter mid-year, it is moving and retrograding back into Pisces. Again, it will be very Uranian energy. Our psychology, time to reflect upon that. With our growth, are we on point? Do we need to look at something differently? Are we getting stuck in our heads? Are we putting our actual action and best foot forward? That will be the time that for a lot of us, it can be a little bit testing, but it's deeply informative also because we will have the time to assess such. So before I mention how this will affect your zodiac sign, I will mention the key dates that we need to mark on a calendar. And that is for Saturn and Aquarius will be direct between the 1st of January through to May the 23rd. By that point, all of your actions, especially when it does link to Jupiter, and I will mention Jupiter dates as well, we will have approximately 6 months really to get buckle down and get these things done. So I really did say, moving into January, it will be really hit the ground running to monopolize upon the Saturn-Jupiter energy to get the best out of your chart. Now, it will be going retrograde from May the 23rd, and it is at 13 degrees Aquarius, and it will stay retrograde until October the 11th. So you can find frustrations and reflection upon that accountability from a karmic point of view around that time, and then applying the changes as it goes direct from October the 11th at 6 degrees until January 2022. That will be at 11 degrees. Oh, beautiful Pisces. For you guys, this is connected to your 12th house. Now, you guys naturally are very, very spiritual, very psychic. You can be attracting a lot of people towards you in the year of 2021 through to 2023, where either it's something that you're directly dealing with, and it's two things really. Number one, I'm seeing you guys would make amazing therapists, amazing mediators when it does come to group ventures. But it's also your brain becoming the artist to be able to transform those situations. This can be a house where directly through your interactions and through your viewpoints and belief systems, it can be connected to your awakening, but it also can very separately be a place where we are, getting our energy from. We're coming to a point where we're looking at the past and we're coming to terms with things. So yes, it can be a house where we are requiring to really dig deep into those things and to make peace with them. So it can be therapy, counseling, and things to that degree. It's also creating healthy boundaries with group energies so they don't directly impact you. So it's the assertive energy, but it's also where you don't get stuck. You may be pulled into things where you're able to actually articulate how each person is feeling, but there is caution and responsibility with that, both with Saturn and Jupiter. But you can find a lot of 12th house development. Now, this can be hopes and dreams coming through. It can also be a lot more social activities and a lot more social psychological responsibilities. 12th house can be very spiritual, but it can be the house of imprisonment. It can be secret enemies, your social responsibilities. But I do feel you will be able to handle this because you are Pisces and you are very intuitive, and there is transformations. And by mid-year, we are having Jupiter transit back into your first house. So this can be very liberating when you're going through this, and especially moving well beyond this point for you individually, it can be very, very beneficial. So please trust the process of where both Saturn and Jupiter are falling at the moment. It is there for a direct reason. It's to enhance and develop you, some of your skills, some of your gift sets, so that when you are moving mid-year into not so much 2023, but more so prior to that, you're going to see ideas by mid-year, how this can be playing out for you with first house of Jupiter in Pisces hitting your natal chart. And what I mean by that is it can give you themes of what can be coming up the following year for you. And you will be feeling potentially a little bit more yourself, but the development of that 12th house is going to benefit you in some shape or form. And I do feel it will be a collective awakening where some of your belief systems and services can be helping the collective. Now, Saturn in Aquarius transit dates, before we move on to Jupiter, we are having Saturn in Aquarius direct from the 1st of January till May the 23rd, where it will go stationary retrograde on May the 23rd at 13 degrees Aquarius through till October the 11th at 6 degrees Aquarius. Now, the direct motion of this will be from October the 11th at 6 degrees through to January 2022 at 11 degrees. Okay, as for Jupiter, now I'm really looking at the charts, and with these placements, we did have, as I mentioned, the conjunction point with Saturn and Jupiter, and that was on the 21st in December 2020. Now, what we have moving forward are some beautiful aspects, but we really need to monopolize upon it, and this is going to take a great deal of accountability with that vision. So with Jupiter, it's showing the vision, it's giving us the energy, it's giving us the opportunities, but we will need to take direct accountability. And we do have a window pocket. Now, in the initial stages, moving into 2021, we have most of the planets direct. We have Uranus and Taurus going stationary direct by the 1st and out of shadow by the 14th. So with Jupiter and Saturn, we have until about the end of January. And then even by mid-January, we're going to be in shadow stage of Mercury going retrograde, and it will be in the house of Aquarius. So it will both link to these big boys in the sky and reflecting upon what all this energy means between Saturn and Jupiter and what we're going to do with it, what some of these themes are. And very much, as I mentioned before, with Aquarius, it can feel like the black sheep of the family. It can be pack and tribe mentality. It's wanting to have this innovation and change, and it's all for the people, but sometimes we can feel like the odd one out. So adjusting to this can take a little bit of time. So it's perfect that we will be having a Mercury retrograde going into shadow by about mid-January and then retrograde by the end of January. So moving into 2021, a bit of reflection on all the placements we hold within our zodiac signs where Aquarius lands, which I have mentioned and I'll continue to. How it's going to affect us, tuning into it. Now, contracts, signing of anything, there can be complications. There can also be additional information coming towards you, especially when it does come to group endeavors and growth. It can be not the best time to launch projects. Far better to, if you are going to launch anything relating to Aquarius, with both Saturn and Jupiter in those placements, better to wait till after Mercury direct. Okay, so the must-know dates with Jupiter. Jupiter is making two transitional points. One, it will be in Aquarius until June 20th, where it does move into Pisces, and we will get a very different energy. And around these dates, it's very important to pay attention to what some of these themes are, because Jupiter will be entering Aquarius again towards the 1st of January, which can be taking on those themes, and it will be at 0 degrees. So initially, we will have Jupiter direct from January the 1st at 2 degrees Aquarius until June the 20th. Now, it's pretty much a month after Saturn would have already been well and truly retrograde. We still have Jupiter direct, so it will land on June the 20th. Then with the retrograde, it's retrograde between the 20th of June at 2 degrees Pisces. Keep an eye on those dates. Till October the 18th at 22 degrees Aquarius. Now, as it moves direct, on October the 18th, it will be in Aquarius until the end of the year, where it will yet again enter. So we have the retrograde point at the middle of the year. As I mentioned, pay attention to those dates, and that should hold you through. Now, we'll talk about how it's going to link to your zodiac sign, what these themes can be. Okay, Pisces, let's have a look at your chart and see what potentially can be playing out for you. Number one, I would feel that with Aquarius in your 12th, you can be very tapped into people's needs. This can also be quite problematic. It can be large creative ideas, understanding everyone's perspective, maybe getting stuck. Great for psychology in a sense of helping other people, but potentially that can also come up for self. Trying to come to terms with the group. Understanding maybe their needs, and maybe feeling very separate to that with the 12th house. It's very similar to an awakening. Now, 12th house can be your subconscious mind, hidden resources, secrets, enemies, and your social responsibility. Uniquely, Jupiter will be direct in Aquarius, pretty much from the 1st of January through to June the 19th. Now, on the 20th of June, it will move into Pisces, which is your first house placement. So in the initial stages, a lot of focus will be on the Aquarius placement. Now, 12th house can be difficult, but it depends on the age of the person, the development, how they tap into situations, but it can be very, very spiritual. Now, from a collective energy, you can find that you're finding that niche market, that you're attracting people and they're asking you to problem solve. You may be helping, as I said, being open to it, trying to understand everyone's perspective. So it can be very taxing at times, and you're going to have to really control how much you give mentally and cognitively, and how much you continue to play those things out in your head. But it can be a very creative house. Bringing those very creative ideas into fruition, should you choose to use so. Now, between June the 20th, we are moving from your 12th house into your first house, and it's 2 degrees Pisces. So it can also be, where you're really looking at yourself. This could be you yourself, how you're showing up. It might be you want to change your appearance. It may be you're changing your demeanor about how you're responding to other individuals. You're looking at potentially why you're attracting certain individuals into your life. But it also can be your viewpoints of yourself and transformation as such. Whatever comes up at this point between June the 20th and the 17th of October 2021, pay attention to that time frame, guys, because it's going to give you some key themes of what's coming through in 2022. Now, during the retrograde, use that time to reflect, both with the 12th house, of the attraction of these energies into your life, and what you want to do with that energy, and what part you are in that equation. You can actually develop a career through it. You could actually find unique ways why people are looking at you in a certain way. And again, it can be depending on the career sector you're in. I mean, this is beautiful if it's aspected in any shaman work, chakra alignment, psychic intuitive energy. Pisces are very, very psychic in nature. Psychologists, therapists. So depending on the career field you're in, very separately, it could be that you are extremely busy and a lot of intuition is going into creative endeavors. Now, during that first house placement between June the 20th and October the 18th, if you have been out of alignment and you need to change some things, that time frame will give you that pocket to redirect that energy. Let's have a look at Uranus and Taurus. Now, it will be stationary shadow by the 1st of January 2021 at 6 degrees Taurus. It then will be direct by the 14th of January at 6 degrees Taurus. Now, the direct motion will be pretty much from January 14th through to August the 20th, where it will be at 14 degrees Taurus. So we have that pocket between January and August where we can have that direct movement with anything that we've reflected upon, all those changes that may have occurred. And the changes can be coming up in the first 2 weeks of January. And although we do have 3 squaring aspects this year with Saturn and Uranus and Taurus, I am feeling, although major astrologers are discussing the fact that we're going to have 3 major shifts when it does come to Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn in Aquarius, I really do feel the beginning of the year is going to give us this theme of what potentially can come through. And I will discuss dates, very much linking into these energies, during the year and, throughout. So the retrograde, the next retrograde cycle is between August the 20th at 14 degrees Taurus and January the 1st at 10 degrees Taurus 2022. Now, the first point of the squaring aspect that we are experiencing will be February the 17th. Now, with that, we will already have Mercury retrograde in Aquarius. It would, by mid-January, we will be having those shadow aspects plus Uranus and Taurus is in shadow cycle. So it can be, again, pretty much anywhere from the 1st till the 14th and the 17th. There can be sudden changes and difficulties when it does come to Aquarius and Taurus placements. Now, the second part of Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn will be on June the 14th. Now, Saturn in Aquarius will be retrograde from May the 23rd till October the 11th. We also will have Jupiter in shadow during this time, moving into retrograde into Pisces by June the 20th. By this point, prior to the squaring aspect occurring with both Uranus and Taurus and Saturn and Aquarius, we would have had the annular solar eclipse, the new moon in Gemini at 19 degrees. And we also have Pluto in Capricorn retrograde between April the 27th and October the 6th at 24 degrees Capricorn. So, with this phase during June the 14th, you can find again, major themes to do with the eclipse can be cycling, and that's due to the fact that we have the North Node in Gemini, and this is a brand new moon, so it will be an ending and a new beginning. When it comes to Jupiter, the reflection state and the shadow cycle of that will be moving into effect. So we'll already be feeling that by this point, by the time we have Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn and Aquarius. And on top of that, just to make things really, really nice, we would have already had Saturn retrograde. So it's the reflection time. It's the frustration of, okay, where hadn't we taken accountability when it relates to the Aquarius placement? Is it something financial? Is it something in a value system, spiritually? However it's playing out, I'll link it to you. Once I finish these 3 aspects, we will discuss, how this is going to affect us all. Okay, now December 24th, we do have Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn in Aquarius. Now, there are major themes on this month occurring that will directly kind of impact this one zone. So we do need to look at those before we do look at Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn in Aquarius. Now, number 1, Uranus and Taurus will still be retrograde, and that's until January 2022. It went retrograde August the 20th at 14 degrees Taurus until, as I mentioned, January 2022. We also, on the 4th of December, had a solar eclipse, new moon in Sagittarius. So it's an ending in one domain and a brand new beginning in another. The other area we need to be mindful of is that Aries and Chiron is stationary direct. It should still be in shadow. By this time, it went direct as of the 19th, but there still can be, this lag and recuperation that we're trying to get. On top of that, we have the Sun in Capricorn. So yeah, really having to look at that accountability within our lives, utilizing that energy that we had at the beginning of the year and looking at things to do with our accountability, showing up. It can be government related dynamics, but the accountable energy and going back to that foundational level. Mars also is going to be in Sagittarius, so both with the eclipse and with Mars, it's really pushing towards those new Jupiter energies in a very unique way. Now, Aquarius is the polarity of the collective. It's the it's the person that understands, or energy rather, we should say. It's the collective energy that will be coming through, but it's the humanitarian. It's groups forming, it's the people, so to speak. So wherever it's falling in your chart, it's going to be deeply important. Now, Uranus and Taurus understands the requirements for the structures, but also is understanding the necessity for change when it does come to Uranus and Taurus. So we need a balance of both worlds, but there can be complications surrounding those energies. And as Uranus and Taurus goes direct, and it kind of matches because we'll have Venus retrograde in Capricorn, the Sun in Capricorn, putting your energy into that to make these things happen. Mars in Sagittarius, the solar eclipse that occurred, which was a new moon, and for the next 6 months we can have activations on that point, plus Uranus and Taurus squaring on the 24th. So do expect either side and pretty much the entirety of the month, being prepared, looking at those placements, working on those areas so that when it does come to the squaring aspects, you're in alignment. Now, sudden changes can happen with placements linking to Uranus and Taurus, and it can be instantly. Now, this can happen anytime either side of this month due to the fact that the energy of its squaring is occurring on the 24th, but because it's retrograde, any inklings you have, and I'll name the dates again, between August the 20th, be prepared. Start looking at those things that need changing. Yes, sudden changes may have happened around then. It can give you an idea as to what can be coming up right now and start implementing them before that time. Really use those times and the retrograde effect to implement those changes of where those, tension points were in life, so that when it does come to that point, you're not going to have a very tense Christmas. Now, because we're having Aries and Chiron direct, yes, our wounds are relating to an area, but we can't allow our wounds to stand in our way. And it's beneficial that it's direct. We can have a little bit more energy moving out of our way, so to speak. That's why it's there for, for the 7 years, is to help us develop that. But looking at the key themes of both Taurus and Aquarius to get the best out of it, and trying to find the yin and yang. Now, Taurus collectively can relate to land, agriculture, beauty, our finances, food, resources, and Aquarius is the wider group energy of the people. Again, it can be institutions, it can be viewpoints, it can be value systems, helping one another, sometimes to the detriment of ourselves. So it's going to be this fine line, and even moving into the beginning of 2021, really adjusting to that. And the benefit will be that we'll have that pocket time to kind of ease into it, but it can feel a bit like it's thrown upon us. So bear in mind there can be tension points there. Any themes that come up around August, pay very close attention. Fine tune them, move them so that you're protected. I'd probably say if you want to store, get your Christmas presents in order well and truly before the end of the year. Start, paying for those things little by little so that it's not going to agitate the apple cart. That can be wherever, again, which I will talk about for your zodiac signs during the year and inside this video separately, where we can discuss what can be coming up for you. Okay, Pisces, for you, Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn and Aquarius. Now, Aquarius will link to your 12th house and Taurus will link to your 3rd. This can be your thoughts, your communication, your day-to-day routine. You know, you're going to be very busy in 2021 and beyond. Initially, it will be 2021, so you really need to pay attention to your mind. Make sure you're paying attention to the road, the communication coming in, value systems. People coming to you also can be a big theme. It also can be a beautiful place where psychology can be coming up. Now, between January and February, which this is occurring February the 17th, but we are going to have during this cycle Mercury retrograde in Aquarius, which will connect in with your 12th house. This can be a lot of thoughts. It can be very, very spiritual, and because it's Aquarius, it can be the obligations and responsibilities and accountability of people around us. It can be a tribe-related dynamic. It can be a group-related dynamic. People's, again, belief systems. What to do in a given situation. You can be really reflecting upon this, but there could be some aspect of a difficulty of articulating it. So try and be patient on the 17th. Now, I do feel as Mercury goes direct, you can have a lot more clarity and you will be able to share these situations more freely, but you do need to pay attention to people overstepping the mark this year. Just be careful of that. Hearts on June the 14th, and at this point Saturn will be retrograde, so highlighted will be psychology. You could literally be a psychologist with this placement, but you will understand what people want. You'll have this hunch energy. You'll be able to have this art for seeing people's viewpoints, understanding it, but we can't make everyone happy. And in the initial stages of 2021, it can be difficult. There can be tribe mentality and there can be pack mentality. So we do need to be careful of this. So with Mercury, when it was retrograde previously, you had the time to reflect upon this. Now in June, we have Saturn in Aquarius retrograde. We also have Jupiter going into shadow, which is going to be connecting to your first house placement of Pisces. So it'll give you a little inkling of what 2022 is going to be like for a short space. And we also had the solar eclipse new moon in Gemini, which is home related dynamics. So there can be new subjects coming up with home. There could potentially, for some of you, have new people moving in. Also, there can be decorations, upgrading, purchasing of homes, or the new way you will be moving can potentially, how can I get that done? How can I achieve that? New situations can come through. We'll also have Pluto in Capricorn retrograde at this time, and it will be through till October the 6th at 24 degrees Capricorn. So when it comes to that, when it comes to the Capricorn placement with Pluto, letting go of maybe old hopes and dreams, what would you need to change up about it? It can be friendship groups kind of moving away, people that didn't take accountability, maybe people that had different value systems than you. And to a point, you can be spending some time during this year looking at those dynamics within people. Now the next part is just before Christmas, 24th of December. We have Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn and Aquarius. And look, Uranus wants to liberate us. It wants to give us all the niceties in life. And Saturn wants us to stick to those set of rules in order to achieve it. Now it almost feels there's something inside of you changing. It is because Taurus is linking to your communication sector. This can be in the way you are, and it can be that this year you do actually upgrade certain devices, but definitely it will be more in the way you're expressing yourself, your daily routine, the way you're showing up, especially when it does come to group-related dynamics. There can be something in that changing for you. There can also be this difficulty initially for you feeling, do people understand where I'm coming from? Try and move through that, because these difficulties are enhancing and growing you beyond that point, that you can be your own unique energy. Uranus and Taurus, as I mentioned, will be retrograde at this time until January 2022. And we'll also have Venus retrograde in Capricorn. And this is from the 19th through till January 2022. Now, Capricorn connects in with your group ventures, your social activities, your friendship groups, This can be hopes, dreams, and aspirations, but it's a very social house. And I am seeing a trend coming through with your chart that you will be evolving through these situations, including anything that where you've been trying to help people out. I do believe some reflection will go into this at the end of the year. And as it moves direct, then you can have those transformations in those areas with your hopes, dreams, and aspirations. The new friendships coming in, fixing situations where people had falling outs, and also with the way in which you're able to communicate. People actually hearing you out, people seeing your side potentially. Now, we also had, during the point Venus is going retrograde, we have Aries and Chiron going direct, which is a unique time for it to be happening. It's almost like, okay, just in case you're unsure, but there can be a bit of agitation. So don't be surprised if some of these areas are deeply frustrating you, and it can be amplifying the dynamic with the communication sector. We had, as I mentioned, the solar eclipse, new moon in Sagittarius, and this is to do with the work that you're putting in, your employment, your reputation and fame. There can be all of these things, and I do see a lot of transformation happening with this situation. Just really, really make sure, especially as we have the sun transiting Leo or the moon, pay attention to healthy boundaries with these individuals and subject matters with the growth of it. When it does come to marketing and advertising, it does look to be a burden to a degree initially, but you will develop it. You will balance it out. And when it does come to the communication, you can be upgrading things, can be requiring a car in order to achieve these things. Noise sensitivity, I'm just saying. Anyway, let's get on to the next house placement. Tension, wait for major decisions till after January 2022, about 2 weeks in. And tension potentially could come from your psychology or 12th house placement. Time to meditate, not wanting to talk, sort of those themes going on. So you have patience on that day. Now, I'm only going to briefly touch on Pluto in Capricorn because it is sort of counteracted by Saturn and Jupiter. So it will ease up. We have had a lot of heavy placements. Now, January can be a large point of this, and December, because we have a lot of placements there. Plus, when the retrograde effects happens, I check in with you month by month, and I do give you the daily updates. Now, the direct cycle will be from January the 1st at 24 degrees Capricorn. And we're having a Mercury retrograde shadow period by mid-month. So that can be anything Aquarian related, what we need to tie up, miscommunication, crosswise. But anything relating to those loose ends, get paperwork done in the first 2 weeks. And you pretty much got through to April 27th. Now, by April, anything relating to that Capricorn placement, there can be reflection upon those things, refinement, and that will be from April the 27th at 26 degrees. The higher in the degree point it gets, the more critical the aspect. We're doing 24, and 0. There's certain critical degree points that can be pretty harsh. So retrograde as of April the 27th through to October the 6th at 24 degrees Capricorn. Then from October the 6th through to January 1st, it will be direct, and it goes retrograde again, 2022. Okay, Pisces. Now, the 11th house placement is linked to Capricorn for you. And at the beginning of the year, themes to do with this can be coming up, as well as maybe having to let situations go, friendship groups changing, hopes and dreams and aspirations, as well as you do have Aquarius on the 12th. So it's looking at those things. Value systems can be different, but there can be a lot of responsibility when it does come to your hopes, dreams and aspirations. As well as you may have to, how do I put it? There may have been a lack of development in those areas due to burdens that were occurring external. Now, towards the end of the year, we're going to have Venus retrograding in Capricorn, and mid-year we are having Pluto in Capricorn in retrograde. So you will have an opportunity during those times to see what resonates, what doesn't, how to change these things up. There can also be, with the 11th house placement, looking at the big picture. Again, social responsibilities, things to that degree. But week by week, I will cover the astrology and tell you how to navigate these transits. But it should counteract it because we have both Saturn and Jupiter in that location. And then mid-year, Jupiter is transiting into Pisces, which is your first house placement. There can be liberation. Okay, let's have a look at Neptune and Pisces. Two things to mention before I get into the dates of the directs and the retrogrades is I will mention the astrology during the month, how these things are playing out for you week by week, as well as Jupiter is going to be transiting mid-year into Pisces. So this will be a double whammy for Neptune and Pisces. We're also going to have, let me have a look at the charts for Mars. Okay, more towards October and December, there can be these things coming up, but let's have a look at the dates. Now, on January the 1st, we will have Neptune direct until June the 25th at 23 degrees Pisces. Its retrograde date is June the 25th till the 1st of December. So there can be deep reflection in this area, which again, I do remember we do have Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn and Aquarius around that time. So it'll be retrograde till then, going stationary direct. And again, it can be sometimes quite slow moving. So any of those areas that maybe you haven't launched, transform, change, or the house that it's linking to, which I'll talk about shortly, there can be tension points there. Now, it will be pretty much direct from the beginning of December through till the end of this year into 2022. And it'll be at 20 degrees Pisces. Let's have a look at the placements. The deepest part of Neptune in Pisces will be your viewpoints, your hopes and dreams, your aspirations, your belief systems inside yourself as well. This is very first house placement. Now, during this year, you may find there to be some changes happening, both in your healthy boundaries with individuals. You're a very strong individual, but at the same time, because you have Leo in the 6th, it's about managing those things. People always requiring you to be something, and maybe energetically you feel you're just like a break. So there can be a lot of burdens coming up. And for you, first house placement, some of your hopes and dreams, you may see window pockets of reflection occurring. You also can be changing the way you're showing up in the world. And this can be your demeanor, changing your hair, changing your makeup, changing the way you dress, your viewpoints, your belief systems, evoking a different image. More towards retrograde, you'll find you'll go inside yourself and you won't be articulating some of these shadow energies that are going on. Mid-year also, because we will have Jupiter retrograding into Pisces, there can be a way that you're wanting to grow and liberate yourself, and some changes inside yourself you're wanting to implement. Some of that can give you a little pocket window view into what 2022 can be like, because Jupiter will then be moving into Pisces, where it will be transiting next year, and growth can happen at a first house placement level. So pay attention to that. How are we showing up in the world? How are people seeing us? What can we do to transform that? Where are we on point when it does come to these individuals that come towards us that may have issues, people needing on us, and what can we do to transform that? Okay, let's have a look at Mercury retrograde. Now, Mercury is going retrograde 3 times this year. And some of these subjects we need to look at because they're going to highlight different places of our chart. It will be direct from the 1st of January until mid-month. Now, we're going to get that shadow cycle, and it's going to be in the house of Aquarius. Now, this is going retrograde as of the 30th, but mid-month you can feel some of those shadow aspects. So it will be pretty much from January the 30th at 26 degrees Aquarius, retrograde until February the 21st at 11 degrees. Now, that's most of February. So if there's anything paperwork related or wherever that falls in your house, pay attention to that retrograde cycle, and it can cause some frustration. Now, from there, it will be direct from February the 21st, 11 degrees Aquarius, until May the 29th at 24 degrees Gemini. Now, a lot of subjects relating to Gemini will come up during the next retrograde cycle. and that is between May the 29th, 24 degrees Gemini. Remember, we've got the North Node in Gemini, until September the 27th, 25 degrees Libra. Okay, from that point we have the direct motion, and that will be from October the 18th, 10 degrees Libra, until January 2022, 28 degrees Capricorn. So a lot more Capricorn themes coming up in January 2022. So what themes can be coming up? Now, the first retrograde is Aquarius energy. Pay attention to that cycle between January and February. The next retrograde is between May and June, and it's in the house of Gemini. The third one is between September and October, and it's in the house of Libra. So again, I will talk about this for your zodiac sign. Food for thought, remember these dates. Okay, Pisces, now for our first Mercury retrograde, you can feel the shadow mid-January. Any signing of documents, really get those things done. If you're buying anything, make sure you keep the receipts. There also can be tension points in communication. Now, this is in your 12th house placement. So for you, this can be subjects to do with your hidden thoughts, your subconscious mind, the things that keep up secrets, your social responsibilities, that of what may be impacting you. And it's a time to reflect upon how you stand in the matrix of Aquarius. You know, who are those people? What value are they bringing to you? This can be a point where you can feel a little bit off center. 12th house can be difficult, or it can be deeply spiritual. You're guided to, during that Mercury retrograde, take time out, do quality things, try and block out white noise and move into that 12th house placement. Now, it goes direct after the, let me check the date, 21st of February. So there can be some reprieve from that point onwards. The next Mercury retrograde we have is May 29th, and that will be through to June the 22nd. This will be in your 4th house placement. Subjects relating to home, your domestic duties, it can be your psychological foundation, anything home related. It can be needing to do repairs. There can be a lot of energy surrounding your home. Again, try and get things done prior to that event. If you are moving, it's probably not the best time to move, but if you have to, you have to. Again, you will, if you are moving, find it a little bit tedious. It can be frustrating during those points. Just make sure you read all the documents, and you should be covered. Now, as it goes direct, again, there can be some reprieve in that domain. Also, subjects relating to family can come up. Now, the third Mercury retrograde is in your 8th house placement of Libra. Now, these can be subjects to do with deeper connections, value systems, shared resources. It can be money that we get from the government. It can be money that we get from our income, or sharing that we have with our partnerships, marriages, contracts, partnerships. It's tax, births, deaths, legacies, inheritances, wills. It's all those Plutonian energies, you know, assessing and investing. Now, these dates, again, can be from September the 27th through till October the 18th. And, you know, either side, a little bit either side, you can have a little bit of tension points relating to these things. After that, it can be a reprieve, and you can also be thinking about loved ones that have passed over, because it is a Mercury retrograde. It's thought and speech as well. Now into Mars. Now, the exciting thing is it is transiting out of Aries and taking the pressure off your 2nd house, Pisces. So this can be if there was pressure relating to your personal resources, your self-esteem, your material value, money coming into your life, where you stand, basically. The tension point is coming off that, but you also will have Aries and Chiron linking to the 7th house placement, where it will continue to transform you and assist you in healing. Now, the first Mars transit is leaving Aries, and on January the 6th it's transitioning over to Taurus. Now, this can take a much needed break, as well as we will not be having a Mercury retrograde, a Mars retrograde this year. So we shall feel a lot more energized, but there will be different areas of our life being highlighted. The first transit's January 6th through to March 3rd. Third house placement, hustle and bustle, very busy, caution on the road, thoughts, technology, communication, anything you're wanting to do or say, these subjects can come up. Just be mindful that Mercury will be retrograde during that stage. Now on March 3rd through till April the 23rd, subjects relating to home. This can be a good time to get home situations in order, get your routine back on track, and deep focus can be relating to home-related dynamics. Now from April the 23rd till June the 11th, subjects relating to 5th house, which is romance, children, luck, can be hobbies, luxuries, and things to that degree. Always pay attention to that transit with the 5th house, especially being in Mars. We can accidentally overeat and overindulge, and the next transit is where it kind of starts showing up, and that's with Mars transiting into Leo, which is your 6th house placement. Now, it's going to be there from June 11th until July the 29th. Now, 6th house placement can be to do with health-related dynamics. It can be healthy boundaries. It can be habits, routines. So anything from the 5th to the 6th, you always got to, when you hear that, you're like, okay, I need to keep this in order. Let's not let this go out of control. Keep that balance. So a lot of creative ventures can come, and it can be also birthing a children from the 5th house from April to June. Now, in June, until July the 29th, 6th house placement. If you need checkups, great time to get it done. If you want to change some routines, if you're wanting to change your working environment, these subjects can come up. And if you do feel you're dissatisfied with these situations, healthy boundaries are really important. They can directly impact health. Again, if you need professional advice, always with the 6th house placement and with thyself, check in with a professional. Now, from July the 29th till September the 14th, subjects to do with relationships, your interconnections, Venus-related dynamics, 7th house placement. These can be highlighted, so it's a good time to pour energy into these domains. From September the 14th to October the 30th, you can be focusing on taxation, paperwork, legacies, inheritances, your ability to bounce back, deepening connections, maybe even taking a connection to the next level. From October the 30th till December the 13th, you have the 9th house placement. And now this can be thoughts of travel. This can be going online, looking at foreign countries, looking at spirituality, researching things, upskilling, doing short courses, and wanting to move abroad. Again, pay attention to the Mercury retrograde cycles, what's happening in the collective at that time. 2022 is open more so for that, but there still can be a potential. So focusing on what you can do to expand that domain. Now, that will be from October the 30th through till December the 13th. Now, on December the 13th, it moves into your 10th house placement. This can be your workplace. It can be your reputation, employment. Deep focus will be on that until it moves in January 2022. Pay attention to these. Put your energy into those areas. Otherwise, themes will directly be coming up. Also, I'll be live during the month and I'll have regular content to guide you throughout the year. Last points, Venus retrograde. Now, that is occurring December the 19th until January the 1st. The other point I do want to mention is Chiron and Aries. Now, that retrograde is occurring from July the 15th at 12 degrees Aries until December the 19th, 8 degrees Aries. So pay attention to those times. You can feel a little bit fatigued during that time and irritable, linking to the 8th house. But because we have Mars transiting other signs, subjects relating to Sagittarius will come up towards December due to the fact we have the eclipse. Okay, as for your eclipse dates, we have the eclipse in May the 26th, a total lunar eclipse, which is a full moon in Sagittarius at 5 degrees. We then have an eclipse in June 10th, which is an annular solar eclipse, new moon in Gemini at 19 degrees. And then November the 19th, it's a partial lunar eclipse, full moon in Taurus at 27 degrees. And then finally, in December, on the 4th, we have a total solar eclipse, which is a new moon in Sagittarius at 12 degrees. Again, I will follow these live for all your up-to-date information and energy relating to the astrology. So if you have listened through this far, thank you very much. Take care, beautifuls. I'll see you soon. Again, if you do want to book in the link is